Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Ask Me Anything Connectivity for Hybrid Data session. So let's get started by quickly introducing today's panelists. First, you have me. I am Joelle Andrews, a Senior Product Marketing Specialist for Progress Data Direct, and I'm going to be today's moderator. I'm joined by our speakers. First, we have Aaron Berg. He's been a Senior Solutions Engineer with Progress for about 4 years. He's worked in the IT space for over 20, and he's worked in network administration and data connectivity. His primary focus today is on bridging the gap between data and analytics by using open standards such as ODBC, JDBC, and OData or REST. This broad experience has allowed him to be a valuable resource for customers looking to implement Progress Data Direct's connectivity solutions. Next, we have Steve Viam. He's a software architect. Steve has been with Progress Data Direct for nearly 30 years, and he's one of the architects who is involved with building the hybrid data pipeline product. He has a vast experience in the data connectivity market. I'm very excited to have Steve with us here today since he's been one of the architects who has been building this product. So Steve, Aaron, so happy to chat with you guys today. Looking forward to hearing all the questions coming in from our listeners / watchers. So I'm going to start by turning this over to Aaron so you can give us a bit of a presentation. Aaron?
All right, well, thank you very much, Joelle, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And basically, I want to go through a quick overview of hybrid data pipeline, kind of what the product does, how it works, some popular use cases, and then a little bit of the architecture of the product. And then we'll get into really why everyone's here for the questions. So without any further ado, hybrid data pipeline is our lightweight data gateway. And by that, it really serves a lot of different features. It can connect to data in a lot of different locations, a lot of different types of data sources. It's used by companies of all sizes. We have small startups that use it all the way up through Fortune 500 companies. It's a self-hosted product, runs on most flavors of Linux. You can host it where you choose, whether on-prem or in the cloud. It's cluster capable, so it supports your high availability and load balancing needs. Can be configured very easily through web UI, which is included with the product, as well as a very rich set of management APIs, so you can integrate it with your existing solutions. And it has a very strong history. We released Hybrid Data Pipeline as a standalone product about 5 years ago, and it actually before that was based on a hosted offering that we had. So there's a lot of history. It's a very mature product. So let's hop into a little bit more on some of the use cases. When we take a look at Hybrid Data Pipeline, it's really designed to help you consume or share data in a timely and compliant manner, regardless of location. I tend to use a Swiss Army knife metaphor for this. It serves a lot of different purposes. By timely, I really mean that it's giving you real-time data access. So we're not storing the data in hybrid data pipeline. It's accessing the data at its source, and also timely in that it's easy to deploy and configure. From a compliant point of view, you only have one source that you need to connect to, so you're not replicating your data in other locations. As well, everything is encrypted through the product. And then, regardless of location, we connect to data in the cloud, you can connect to data on-prem, you can connect to data quickly behind a firewall. So lots of different things that you can do with the product. A few of the more specific use cases would be our standardized data gateway. When we take a look at that, it helps you deal with this wide breadth of data sources that most people are finding they have in their environments. So you may have, a SQL server, and you may have Redshift in the cloud, and then you need to integrate Salesforce data. Those become a lot of different things to try and provide access to for your developers or your analytics users in your company. So we provide you with a single interface where they can access those sources. That's either through a standard ODBC or JDBC driver. One driver can access all those sources through the pipeline, or even through OData, which is a rich REST API developed by Microsoft about 2007. And I like to call it SQL over REST, and we can instantly put that REST enablement on top of your data sources. It also, you get centralized authentication. So your users aren't authenticating directly to the databases, they're authenticating to the hybrid data pipeline. Helps you manage that. And you can also control it by having tenants and users separated out inside of hybrid data pipeline. Everything's encrypted. So it's HTTPS encryption from either those ODBC or JDBC clients or using OData. So really gives you a secure way to access that. It also limits the number of drivers, like I said, that you need to deploy. So HDB can really serve as this enterprise data gateway and give you the single place to have secure access, like a data hub, to support your BI and development initiatives. So when we come back up here to our another use case, our securely sharing data, this is the idea for, say, like an ISV who may have hosted data that they want to share with their customers. And right now, oftentimes you're having to do that by opening ports, maybe setting up a VPN, providing CSV extracts to your customers. Those all, can be tedious. There's a lot of administrative work to set those up. May not be real-time access. So it creates a lot of extra technical challenges to get your customers connected to the data they need, and oftentimes it's not in the format that they want it in. So HDP gives you that HTTPS-based access, so you can provide with your customers with that ODBC or JDBC driver that's going to run securely and connect them to the data they need in real time. And they can use the tools that they want to use. So maybe they're Tableaus or Power BIs or whatever analytics tool they choose. You can separate these customers out into different tenants to make it easy to manage. You can have admins for those tenants. You can have different roles for the users in the tenant, controlling all the way down to which APIs they can use to access the data. We also have IP whitelisting, so you can limit who can access it, as well as ability to throttle. So you can protect those back-end resources from long-running queries or someone kicking off too many simultaneous queries on the server. And when I talked about that ability to OData enable, it's really an instant way to support a really cool feature that Salesforce has called Salesforce Connect. And this is a way for Salesforce to expose external data without having to move it to Salesforce. You basically point Salesforce to the OData endpoint, and it brings it in, or it visualizes it into Salesforce as an external object. So when you make a request for that data in Salesforce, you're actually accessing it at the original source. We've supported that for a long time, and it's a very popular feature with our product just to help enable that. We support OAuth 2 connectivity from Salesforce to Hybrid Data Pipeline, OData v2 and v4 support. Again, everything's SSL encrypted. And we do also have a data source grouping feature, which helps you consolidate different data sources to save some money when having to purchase these different endpoints with Salesforce. And then lastly, let's talk about cloud to ground data access. One additional component to the hybrid data pipeline is our on-premises connector. And this is a small agent that runs behind the firewall close to data that you want to access. So say you are an ISV and you have a cloud analytics tool, and you want to get access to your customers' data to enrich what you already have in your environment. Normally you'd need to set up a VPN or open up ports to make that happen, maybe an SSH tunnel. So we have this small agent, much like a Dropbox or OneDrive client, that installs very easily on a Windows machine on their network. I call it a next finish install. You're just an executable with a few configuration files in the folder. It uses outbound SSL to connect up to the hybrid data pipeline. So you're not opening any ports on that remote firewall. And then all the configuration is handled right inside of the hybrid data pipeline UI or through the management APIs. So as long as that agent has access to the data on the network where it's installed, you can visualize those data sources up in and have access to them inside of hybrid data pipeline. So it's a very easy way to do that. And really just makes it simple as opposed to having to get IT involved to set up the complex VPN tunnels. So when we come back up here to the top, let's take a look at some of our supported data sources. We support a pretty wide range of sources here, everything from number of flavors of Hive, you'll see Redshift, SQL Server, Oracle, Postgres, the things, the relational sources you would expect. Also sources such as Salesforce or Oracle Sales and Service Cloud. So pretty wide range, but we also have a really cool feature that leverages our autonomous REST connector, which allows you to connect to REST endpoints that return JSON and have SQL access to those. And we've included that inside of Hybrid Data Pipeline. So if there are REST APIs that your customers have or that you want to expose through the pipeline, you can do that directly with this solution. And then finally, if there is a source that we don't have, you can bring your own JDBC driver and drop it in, either to the on-premises connector or to the right onto the Hybrid Data Pipeline server. And then from a security point of view, as I've mentioned, everything is encrypted AES 256 at rest, in transit SSL or TLS encryption. For authentication into Hybrid Data Pipeline, we have a basic authentication that can be managed right in Hybrid Data Pipeline, as well as support for LDAP, an Active Directory, and an open framework where you can build like a Java plugin to support other external authentication types. And finally, I want to show you a little bit of the architecture of how it's deployed. So this is kind of a standard way that you would deploy it, normally in multiple nodes of Hybrid Data Pipeline in a cluster, connecting to backend data sources behind a load balancer. You'd normally terminate your SSL connection right at that load balancer, and then your ODBC, JDBC, and OData APIs are all coming in across that connection for consumption by the analytics tools or whatever tools you choose to use. That Hybrid Data Pipeline can also reach out to the cloud. So you can bring in Salesforce data, like I said, or Oracle Marketing Cloud. And then you can also reach down to that on-premises connector and enrich all of that with data coming in from something behind a firewall. All of this can be accessed through that single set of APIs on the front end. So I think with that, it's be a good time to hop over and see what questions people have.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. Hey, everybody, this is Joelle. I think we're all going to turn our webcams on, so then you're going to see we're all real live people. There's Steve. Here's me. Hey, Aaron.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, and we are in our question and answer session. So that was a wonderful overview of Hybrid Data Pipeline. I think you said it the best with it. It's like the multi-tool of same product, so many different things that can be done with it. So yeah, I anticipate we're going to have a whole bunch of questions. As those keep coming in, I'm going to start just with one that I already had ready for you. So this is your gimme, Aaron, Steve. They might not all be this easy. All right, so that list of data sources that you were showing, what else can people use?
So like I said, the REST connector really lets you expand the data sources that you can connect to. And then also that third-party JDBC drop-in really brings, a lot of capabilities. Say you want to drop in a Teradata driver or something else that we don't have in there. And then we're always looking on our side to expand the number of data sources. So as we release new sources, those will appear in Hybrid Data Pipeline in the future.
Sounds great. Okay. Question time. Do you cache or store the data?
No, as Aaron just said, no, we don't. Our access is just real time. Data just kind of flows through the HTTP server from the backend data stores, and sometimes data has to get temporarily persisted just to be paged properly if the result's really big, but that's always just a very temporary situation.
Okay. And obviously, if one of you is talking and the other has something to add, just cut me off, jump right in. Okay, another question. Do you support Docker and containerization?
Yes, so we currently have a trial version of Hybrid Data Pipeline that you can quickly spin up using Docker. and we are doing some work. Actually, right now we have a pre-release in our customer validation portal for our current customers to do some testing with a even more advanced version to better support Docker and orchestration, and allow you to spin that up a little bit, things a little bit quicker. We normally find that you don't usually need a ton of nodes of hybrid data pipeline. It's pretty efficient. So it's not something you're going to be scaling up, dozens of these instances with Docker, but it is nice to be able to put it into that type of environment.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. Next question. Are there other commercial apps besides Salesforce that support OData today?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Power BI is one I see. You'll see it in Tableau. You'll even be able to bring it in. I believe even Excel has some OData
Yeah.
capabilities. What else? What other one, Steve, are you familiar with?
I'm trying to think. Definitely Excel. There's a lot of Microsoft has a lot of products that are definitely
Right.
OData enabled. I know SAP is definitely on the OData train.
Very much, and even some of them, yeah, like I said, the Microsoft products, and what I'd have to do, yeah, I could dig a little bit more, but there's definitely a wide range.
Okay. And that's probably also something that folks can see when they're on our website, right? That OData page, that would have a good list for them.
Definitely.
Okay. Great, great. All right, next question. What differentiators does Hybrid Data Pipeline have over iPaaS providers?
So one of the differences is we're really about connecting the sources. We're not necessarily doing any transformations or ETL in this, so it's kind of more of a plumbing kind of concept with our product. It's also self-hosted in that regard, so it's not something that you're going through a SaaS offering for. So it's a little bit of a different use case. I don't know, Steve, if you have anything else.
No, not in that regard.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out a better word than plumbing, but that is one of the best examples
I know
the
you
here
love
to
that,
there.
Joelle. I know you love that.
It does explain in the easiest way possible.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great question. All right. Is encryption possible between the node to the OData server maybe in the future?
So there's encryption right now from the hybrid data pipe or from the client, like APIs to the hybrid data pipeline server. Direct, if you're not using a load balancer, when there's a load balancer in place, there is a piece right there that isn't encrypted between the load balancer and the hybrid data pipeline servers. But that is something that I've heard talk of us getting on our roadmap. So
Yeah.
I think that's the last piece.
And probably just talking about roadmap in general, there's always things that we are thinking about and considering and, have customers requesting of us just what's going on in the market. So if you don't see it today, there's always a strong likelihood that we're talking about it behind the scenes and maybe you'll see it tomorrow.
Definitely.
Yep. Okay. Talk a little bit about how it's licensed.
So it's licensed on a per server basis generally. So depending on how many nodes you install, that would be, and then also which data sources you choose to use. So it's kind of a server and data source licensing model.
So that's a very individual question of, you
Definitely.
need to talk to somebody on our teams to hear your situation and then find out what to do next.
Exactly.
Okay. Hey, you might even be a lucky person and get to talk to Aaron in person. Wouldn't that be great? Nice. Okay. Another question. Do you support read and write access to relational databases?
Yes, we do. We support full CRUD support. You can through the JDBC, ODBC, and OData APIs, you can basically insert, update, and delete.
Cool.
Now, there are some of the data sources we support on the backside, or they're not relational and they're sometimes read-only. So in those cases, it's
Yeah, it'll depend on what the backend database is, but when you're
yeah.
talking about the relational sources, those are all full CRUD.
You can also, if you're going through the OData API, you can prevent that by when you set up your data source to saying that you want to just keep it read-only. So it's just another
Gives you an extra layer of security there to help. So even if the data source is read write, yeah, you can lock that down. Maybe Steve, this is a good time if you have some of the some ideas, I guess some of the things that you see make OData such a valuable offering.
Yeah, it's like you said earlier, it's a standard that's been around for a while. It's been evolving. It's at its fourth major version now, OData 4. It's a REST-based standard that's primarily, most of the data is transmitted through JSON at this point to keep it efficient.
One of the things I find really interesting with it is that has that rich metadata. So when you want to work with OData, you can bring back a single metadata document, and it really self-defines everything inside of the API. So you know what's there, what data types, field lengths, all those things are in that metadata document. So they make it really easy to work with.
Right. So that document really opens up the interoperability to other client applications, just like sort of what's traditionally done with JDBC and ODBC, but it allows it to rest. And one of the things too that's kind of nice about OData is you can, like we were just talking a moment ago about how you can lock things down with read-only access. You can, when you set up your data source, you can choose what tables and what columns you want to expose to your data source, and that kind of helps you kind of lock down your source and really limit how your database is being used.
Okay. That was a very involved answer. I am sure the question asker appreciates that. All right, what else do we have? A question about VPNs. I think you were covering that, Aaron, in your slide presentation. So does connecting, well, let me read this again. Does connecting cloud to on-prem require a VPN?
It does not, and that is one of the really cool features of this, is that you can, I mean, if you use the on-premises connector, you can definitely get behind a firewall without having to set up a VPN. So it makes it really easy.
That's pretty great. What data types or formats are digestible?
Not sure. Complete. Yeah, I don't know, Steve, if you want to. I'm not sure I'm completely
I'm not quite sure where that question's leading to.
I mean, we support ODBC and JDBC from a standards point of view, and then in terms of data types, it would be the data types that are being exposed through the database.
Question asker is saying specifically for PDF files, .tiffs, things like that.
So more like blobs or like files like that. So today we are really focused on relational data, like through SQL. So we're not handling like actual like files in that format, but it's always something we're keeping in mind.
Cool. All right, let me find you another one. No more doozies, right? Are table joins allowed?
Yes. When you're going through the ODBC and JDBC interface, the full, whatever the SQL statements that you want to use are all available at that point because they're effectively being passed through us to the backend database. And when you're talking about OData, the OData queries can result in joins being generated. Depends on what kind of relationships are sort of configured in your data source, though.
Okay. Now, a question that is about ISVs. So kind of a specific audience thing, but there might actually be a lot of software vendors on this call and we just don't realize it. So speaking specifically to them, what do my customers need to install to share their data into our application?
Sure. So Really, it's all they would need to install would be the on-premises connector. So that's just the small Windows agent that they, an executable they would install. They would have, there's 4 files that they put in the same folder that you provide as the ISV to them. And I like to say it kind of marries the on-premises connector to the hybrid data pipeline server. It has the SSL certificate that's required and some other configuration. And once that's installed, they put in some credentials that you would provide to them to authenticate to hybrid data pipeline. There's a real nice test connection button in that tool, so you get a couple green lights and you know everything is working.
That's great. Okay. This is about OpenEdge, which for those who don't know, OpenEdge is another Progress product, just like DataDirect. So maybe we would have to take this offline, but let's try anyway. The 4GL triggers, will you have to develop Java triggers to mimic 4GL triggers?
I don't know, Steve, if you may be more familiar, but in general, we're going through the SQL access to OpenEdge, so we wouldn't really be doing anything with 4GL at that point. So we probably have to go reach out to one of the OpenEdge, one of my colleagues on the OpenEdge side, to dig into that a little bit more, to see what we could do there.
Yeah, I don't know if these are similar to SQL triggers. I don't know. I mean, certainly if you do an insert statement and there's a trigger associated with it, that would be fired. But
yeah. So question asker, we are happy to follow up with you on this one and just get some DataDirect knowledge and OpenEdge knowledge into the same space. No problem. Go into another question. Is wildcard search supported by OData?
Wildcard. So our search capability with OData, what we mostly do is we have extended support for tapping into the search capabilities of the backend database like Oracle and SQL Server. They have full text search. And as long as you get it configured, then we support pretty much all the grammar, the OData grammar for searching at that point. Now we also support sort of emulating that for other databases, but that sometimes you get into some performance issues there because you end up doing a lot of full table scans.
Okay. Another one. Is there a future plan to include streaming data connectors? It might be one of those future plan things that we're not explicitly allowed to talk about.
we didn't put the safe harbor statement up.
That's right. Everyone needs to sign an agreement, NDA.
I would definitely, and we can definitely reach out to make sure we understand what you're interested in on that, and make sure that we, get that into our ideas portal. We actually have an ideas portal that where customers can share those types of things as well. So
yeah, great. Okay. The questions were coming in fast and furious a few minutes ago. They seem to be slowing down. So I'm going to hit the final ones that I'm getting here. And if you do still have questions, listeners, please throw them in. We've got time. We're going to go until our questions are up. This one, does Progress host hybrid data pipeline as a service?
So we do not. We had started years ago with a product that was hosted similar to this, and found that people really wanted it going through their own cloud and their own environment. So we do not host it, but we definitely help you get it going and install it in the environment where you need it.
Okay. Has any of this conversation and questions coming in sparked any thoughts in your heads of, oh, I should have mentioned blank? Anything you want the people to know?
I mean, I really like to bring up just how easy it is to get hybrid data pipeline up and running. I mean, it's really a simple installation on a Linux machine. My background is more on the Windows side of the world, and sometimes I run into some hesitation when people hear that it's only a Linux product, but I don't want that to scare anybody. It's very simple to install. Oftentimes you're up and running in a trial in an hour or two. So it's pretty quick to try and very easy to manage.
Yeah, get to your data faster. Steve, any parting thoughts from you?
It's getting to be a mature product. We've worked on it for a long time, and as a person that's worked on it for so long, I'm pretty proud of it. So
Definitely. Yeah, from the product infancy to where we are now, so many features, so many capabilities, so many things we can integrate with. So yeah,
Yeah.
good job to
Actually,
you and your team, Steve.
one of the new features actually recently added, I was just thinking of, was our ability to do the SQL auditing. So we can actually now log the SQL that is passed in to the product for tracking purposes. So helping with compliance in addition to our standard audit logging. So that's something new that I don't think I mentioned that might be, a lot of people might find useful.
It's pretty great. Okay. Well, I think we covered all of the questions that were coming in. These were great. Thankfully, it didn't stump our fantastic speakers today, Aaron and Steve, because they're very, very smart. So we will be following up with any of the questions that we weren't able to answer specifically today. And certainly if you have any additional questions that pop up once we've concluded here, you are more than welcome to reach out to us. So thanks everybody for your entrance, your attendance, and we'll be talking to you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
bye.